And we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to Behind the ToolBelt episode 199. We have another kick-ass guest. Stay tuned.
TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Behind the Tool Belt is sponsored by Lead Scout. Find out more at leadscoutapp.com.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer, TC Backer.
And we're back. I think, is that getting longer or shorter each week? Yeah, I don't know. But anyhow, we have another great guest, Corey Berry, my man. How the hell is it going, brother? How are you?
It's good, my man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for volunteering your time. I know you are a busy person with your own podcast and your lifestyle and entrepreneurship and all that good stuff, man. And I appreciate you for coming on the show. And I also appreciate you for allowing me to come on your show. So it's kind of a double whammy. We both got to be on each other's podcast. I think this week, both were this week, or was it last week sometime? But doesn't matter. You're here today, and I appreciate our conversations that we've had over the past several days, man, have been really good conversations, man. And you know, I look at you as someone that's in my circle. And I appreciate your insight, your input, your intelligence of many intelligence. And so that brings up kind of a question of mine. It's like, what the hell do you do? Like, because we've had so many different conversations. Like, I know you do a podcast and it's in the, you know, the trade space and HVAC and plumbing and stuff. Like, are you from the plumbing space or what is it that you do? Or let's go back a little bit. Where did you start? Let's go there and led up to this.
Sure. So I've been, I've been in business for myself, I guess, since 2013, but different businesses. I got into the trades completely by accident. I was brought in to help a plumbing company and to develop their sales skills. So I do sales skills development for trade companies. And the truth of the matter is, it's not really industry specific. The information that I bring to the table consists of a mix of personal development, NLP, and various sales programs that I've been through. Sandler would be one of them. And so I bring a lot of non-industry knowledge into specific industries, if that makes sense. So I don't turn a wrench. I don't claim to know how to turn a wrench, but I can damn sure help you sell it. So that's like my primary thing that I do. And then over the last say 11 months, I've been working with artificial intelligence and building different AI products. And I imagine we'll get into that a little bit later, because I'm really excited about the change that it's going to bring to contractors, not actually more in the roofing space than any space right now. Yeah. So it's a little, and I also have written a couple of books and have the podcast. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So when you talk about you help get more sales and stuff, so are you a sales coach? Are you a marketing company? Are you an ad company? Like, what is it that you do?
You could say sales
All,
coach. Yeah.
all the above.
So the truth of the matter is, people struggle with different things in sales. Lots of times it's confidence. Lots of times it's communication. They don't know what to say, when to say it. Hell, sometimes it's presenting the wrong product. I mean, presenting the wrong price to the wrong product, right? For example, I would just work the company that I just finished up with. They were showing the customer the full price. I mean, we're talking about an HVAC unit's $26,000. Like, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard, because people pay payments on everything, especially on $26,000. So that was a pretty easy fix. So that's a good example of, like, it's really things that I think are common sense because I'm in this world, but are that they're just not so common sometimes. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, how many times do you go and purchase a $26,000 product and think you're going to pay cash for it? Like, that's ridiculous to think that.
Mm-hmm. 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 So let's talk about that a little more. So you're a firm believer in presenting the cost of it each month. And you saw somebody, you came across somebody that was presenting the whole entire price. So it's kind of like going to buy a car, right? Like when you go to a car dealership, you see the sticker price, but that's not what they're talking about at all. They want to find out, like, what can you afford, whether it's a 5-year term, 7-year term, 12-year term. Where do you think why do you think that's so important?
I'll tell you why, because think about how many things like Netflix, right? You pay Netflix, whatever that number is, you pay it every month. We've been trained in the United States of America to pay payments on things.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a car dealership, to your point, said, oh, well, the car's $55,000 and they just stopped right there, you'd probably walk off the lot. But instead, what they do is they say, would you be comfortable with a $450 payment? You say, well, I don't know about 450, maybe 425. And they say, well, we can get you there. Let's see what we can do. Right. It's the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It,
yeah.
it's great topic, great subject, because I think a lot of companies nowadays, especially in the roofing space, don't offer financing. I think the old school mentality is we just give them the price of the roof. But if you think about everything that's at your house right now, some people like rent or lease, not lease, but finance their animals, right? But like your kitchen, if you're getting a kitchen put in, your car in your driveway, um, windows put in your house. I mean, Anderson comes to your home. They don't leave. Um, that's a totally different topic or subject that we could talk about on a later day. But I mean, but everything in your home is financed. If you look around, whether you bought it on a credit card or not, you're financing that, right? And a lot of
That's
people
right.
don't even look at that. A lot of companies don't offer credit card payments. A lot of people don't offer the 24 months, same as cash. 5-year term, 7-year term, shit. Even with solar nowadays, finance companies are offering 20, 25, 30-year terms to get it to make sense, to get the payment down low enough so it out does your electric bill. If you got a $400 electric bill, you put solar on your roof, right? That meets or exceeds your electric bill, and you're paying for your solar, financing it at $150 a month. I mean, that makes sense to me, right? If you can make that make sense. But a lot of people, it's funny how a lot of people don't think about that, especially entrepreneurs or business owners.
Yeah, but it's crazy, right? It's insane to know that you have the option to finance. But here's what people say. Here's what business owners say. Well, I don't want to pay the fee. What do you mean? Like, are your margins so low that you can't afford to pay the fee? Because you're paying the fee regardless, right? You're going to pay the credit card company. If they pay with a credit card, you're going to eat that as the business owner. You're going to pay the fee one way or the other. So why not make it easier for the customer to purchase from you?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing too, where you can actually offer two, right? So this is our cash price. Like if you cut a check today, it would be this price. But if you're financing, it'll be this price. And the reason why you do that, I don't think a lot of people understand overhead costs, right? Like so you got your grand total or your subtotal, you got your profit, you got your overhead, and then you have your grand total. And you should have those finance fees or dealer fees or whatever they're called. You should have that built into your overhead, right? And then if somebody says, okay, what's your cash deal? Well, then you can remove those fees, right? That we're not making up, that the finance company is actually charging us a fee. And a lot of times, if you're not careful, that'll cut into whatever profit that you thought you were going to do or make, and it cuts into your margin. And I think that's the problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, that they don't look at that, or it scares them. And just because it scares you doesn't mean it scares the homeowner. And I think that's the problem with a lot of salespeople. Okay, I'm going to go down on a little rabbit hole. Janet and I went out to dinner the other night, and our server was phenomenal, just great. I mean, he was chatty. He said the right things. He asked the right questions. He made sure our drinks were full. So I left him a good tip, a pretty good tip. I'm a pretty good tipper, right? So he chased me down. He's like, "Hey, I think you gave me too much." And I said, no, that's all yours. And it occurred to me right there and then that he didn't think, his problem was, and I don't know what you want to call it, if you want to call it like a poverty type of mindset, where he didn't take himself into consideration as far as like offering the value that he gave us, because he wouldn't leave that tip, right? Because he can't afford a tip like that. Maybe he could have sold himself even more, or added more value to it, if he realized that the money's either in his pocket or it's in our pocket. And I think a lot of salespeople, when they go out, they kind of cringe when they look at the estimate, and they think to themselves, well, I can't afford that. There's two problems with that. One, you're not selling enough to be able to afford the roof. So there's probably problem number one. Problem number two, just because you can't afford it doesn't mean that they can't afford it, because especially when it comes to roofing, that's not like, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say is, I don't like the color of my roof, so I want a new roof put on my home. Maybe a couple times, but not necessarily. It's a need. It's a need, more so than a want. Like, I want a new roof. Like, I need a new roof. Most people need a new roof, and why wouldn't you try to sell, not sell them, but sell them on the value, right? Like, believe in the product that you're selling, believe in the value that you're giving them. And I think in a lot of sales training, I don't think people focus enough on the value that we're actually bringing the customer. It's not about how much it is. It's about what it's going to cost them later if you don't give them that value, and if they decide to get a cheaper roof from somebody else, because it's going to cost them later. It's the value that you're bringing to the table, the warranty or whatever the case might be. I don't know. That was just an epiphany I had the other night. I thought to myself that just because he thinks that, he could probably be a salesperson someplace else if he didn't think the way that he thought at that moment, I guess. Makes sense?
I mean, that's really the biggest problem that I solve. And you're 100% correct. If I can't afford it, then they can't afford it. That's the mindset, right? They don't. Here's the problem with that. And let's just take a roof, for example. If you feel like the price is too high, well, then I would argue that leadership has not explained to you what goes into that cost, right? I don't need necessarily say you need to turn over your books to all your people, but explain, like, we have cost. And guess what? The real value has nothing to do with the warranty. It has nothing to do with the shingle. It has nothing to do with any of that shit. It has everything to do with, if there's a problem, I'm your guy. No matter what happens, if you have a problem with this roof, you're going to call me and I'm going to take care of it for you. And God knows, in roofing, for sure, if you just said that one thing to people, nobody else is going to say that, because I shouldn't say most, there's a lot of guys, they don't want you to call them back, right? Because they've done something they've put 3 nails in instead of 4. And they anticipate problems. So if you provide a good service, if you explain to the customer that they can depend on you, and you spent time and you build a relationship with that customer, they should buy from you. There's no reason why they shouldn't. But you're right. The mindset of I can't afford it, neither can they. One of the things that I like to work with people on is how to break that pattern, right? And so it's NLP stuff. And if you anchor the conversation throughout the conversation that you're having with the customer, this is a great. You can anchor a million different ways. What I mean by anchor is you say certain words that is slowly but surely moving that customer to handing you a credit card or calling their insurance or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, and I like that too. And it's not just about the sale of it, right? It's about the relationship that you built, and the relationship is never over. And a lot of people say the sale is never over, and I don't think a lot of people even understand that concept either. That's part of the value that they're receiving from you, is that now there's a relationship. Now you're the roofer on speed dial. Everybody's got the plumber dude on speed dial. Everyone's got the electrician dude on speed dial. I mean, literally, I have them in my phone. Plumber dude. I don't even know if I know the dude's name, but it's like plumber dude. That's how I got it tagged in my phone. Well, why can't we be the roofer dude in somebody's phone? Like, we're not going anywhere. We're here. We're your roofer guy now. Your neighbors need a roof. We want you to refer us. You have something else that you need done on the exterior of your home. We want you to think of us. Like, that's the value you're receiving, because we were here yesterday. We're going to be here today, and we're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be that guy. If anything does happen, we're going to be here. That's why you're paying us. We're the professionals. We're coming in. We're going to do a service for you that's going to send a lasting impression, and hopefully a good impression on you when we leave. But we're still going to be here. The relationship continues, whether it's a thank you card, whether it's whatever the case might be. You'll see our vehicles in that neighborhood for a long time to come.
It's also a great opportunity to ask for a referral and a review. If you feel like we've done a good job, we cleaned our mess up, we didn't leave a mess, you're happy with the roof, I'm happy with working with you, it's been a great relationship. Just out of curiosity, who else do you know? I mean, we're going to be in the neighborhood. Who else do you know that maybe I could have a conversation with? And look, I'm not going to try to sell them a roof, but maybe, your neighborhood's 25 years old, so they probably have the similar problems that you have. And if you've done a good job, if you've set expectations, you've done what you said you were going to do, there's zero reason they won't say, hey, I got a guy down the street. You should talk to him, right? And by the way, while we're walking over to see that guy, because I'm going to ask you, the customer, to walk me over there if it's appropriate, pull your phone out really quick, and they're going to pull their phone out. Go to Google really quick, and pull up our company really quick. They're going to do all those things. And then walk them right to the review section and get your damn review, right? It's really that simple. There's no reason you shouldn't walk away with a review every single time if you follow that process.
Absolutely. And that's an important part, because a lot of people do look at the reviews, and they're honest reviews. You're not buying reviews. You're getting a true testimonial of how you made that person feel. And especially when it comes to roofing, the safety and the security and the health of not just that individual, but their family, right? Because let's face it, a home is most people's most prized possession, their most valuable asset that they own. And a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, yes, you need water, you need heating, you need cooling, but let's talk about the roof, the safety and the security that your roof provides you and your family, the shelter that you possess, right? Like, and that's the biggest thing. You need food, shelter, and water, right? And without a good roof on your house, none of that matters, really. If you got water pouring in your house, then you got mold issues. If you don't have a good gutter system taking the water away, it's like, that's what we do. We're in the water management business. If you don't want water in your home, call us. We'll get it out of there. We'll divert it someplace else.
Yeah, it's crazy. If you're already putting a roof on, why would you not have a strategic? If you don't sell gutters, which you probably, I'm assuming that you do, right? It's complementary. It makes complete sense. You don't need to walk up in there and pitch all of these things. Start with the roof. By the way, while we're up on the roof, we saw that you have some gutter issues. And by the way, we offer a monthly payment for both of those items, not just the roof.
Exactly. For $12 more a month, we could put you oversized gutters. Most people have undersized gutters and they don't understand that. So for 6 to $12 more a month for the next 3 to 5 years, to have that safety and security of all those issues that you used to have that we're going to take away from you, right? Because that's a huge pain point. Cleaning your gutters, we offer gutter guards, right? You don't have to do that anymore. For another $3, let's add gutter guards into that thing. And that's where financing is so important and so crucial. And that's where I feel like, you should lead with what that monthly payment is, or even ask them, what can you afford each month? And I think a lot of people are scared to ask them that. Car dealerships have done it for decades. Like, where can we get you that you feel comfortable so you can walk out of here with a brand new car today? Well, what can we do to make you feel comfortable so we can walk out of here so you have a brand new roof today with new gutters or windows or doors or whatever the case might be? And that's why financing is so crucial, because especially if you really care, you're going to work hard to make sure that they're getting the best interest rate, the best payment possible for as long as they need it to be. And I'll be honest with you, with this 24-month, same as cash that a lot of people are offering right now, or the 12-month thing, if you do it right, and if there's no prepayment penalty, and that's something a homeowner should ask, within 2 tax returns, you could potentially have those windows paid for, have that roof paid for if you did it right, or continue to make the payment and then put that money that you get back from your tax return in the bank account. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would argue that if you're not laying all this stuff out the way you just did, you're really doing the customer a disservice, because most likely whoever comes along behind you is not going to do as good of a job. And who does that affect? Well, yeah, of course it affects you because you don't sell the product, but it also affects the customer when they get ripped off by somebody else that says, oh, we could do it cheaper. And the reality is it's not apples to apples. You're not doing the same thing. They're putting a shittier shingle on, or they're not, whatever it is they're not doing. But guarantee you, if there's a significant price difference, it's not the same. It's not the same roof.
Right. It's not the same product, same material, same warranty. There's something definitely different about it, and especially with inflation nowadays, it's, and again, going back to a roof is a necessity. It's not necessarily same with heating and cooling. It's getting ready to get cold out. Right. And that's something where if you call a plumbing company up, they have maintenance contracts, right? Somebody will come out, inspect your system, make sure it's functioning correctly. I mean, why don't more roofing, residential roofing contractors provide maintenance programs, or a roof tune up, or a gutter tune up? For $150, we'll come out and inspect your property and give you a full report, right? Like everyone else is doing things like that.
Sure.
And that leads into another conversation that we had earlier before we went live. It's like where the roofing industry is going now, with the people that are coming into our space, guys like you that are bringing more technology to our space, the roofing aerial measurement tools, the 30-second quotes, the CRMs that the HVAC space has had for decades. Even the conferences have evolved into better speakers, better people, better talent, better technology. HVAC space and the plumbing space have been having conferences for decades. I mean, literally decades. Like they're the pioneers of conventions, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%, dude. And look, private equity, they know this space. Like this is like a gold mine. So if you're in business for yourself, you don't have all your shit in order, you don't know what your numbers are, you're flying by the seat of your pants, you're spending money on stupid shit, private equity is not going to look at you. And if you are the company, guess what happens when you go to retire? Nothing. You don't have anything. Because
Right.
You're the company. So you got to delegate, and you do have to bring new technologies in, and you have to be open-minded. And, this industry, a home services industry as a whole, is approximately a decade behind everybody else with technology.
Mm-hmm.
But that's changing quickly.
It is. It is rapidly changing, and there's so many good topics and subjects in just those few words that we just shared with each other. Private equity's coming in, and I also liked how you talked about delegating more, right? And I call that the bottleneck syndrome. Like you need to figure out a way to smash that bottleneck, because I did the same thing, and I think a lot of newer businesses, they think no one can do it as good as me. The harder I work, the bigger we're going to get. And it's like, you can get so far if you're doing everything, but what you got to start doing, you got to put in the work, right? You got to work on yourself, and then you can start working on other people. Like, I get that concept, but if you hold on too long, right, you got to learn to let go to grow. And I think that there's a fine line in there of like, when do you do it? And I think everyone's searching for that. Not everyone, but a lot of people are probably searching for that answer. Like, when do I let go? And this is the deal. The one good thing that you can look at, right? Like, if you go to hire somebody, right, and let's just say you're going to pay them $50,000 a year, you need to look at that individual and see what they're bringing to the table, right? And if you're paying them a salary of 50K a year, they need to 3 times that. Will they bring 150 to $200,000 to the table? And a lot of people listening to this, whether you might work for somebody else or you might be an entrepreneur, you might think that, well, that's a lot of money. If they're bringing $150,000, well, where's that other 100 going? Well, 50 of that covers just what you're paying them. The other 50 of that is going to cover their health insurance, the taxes, the workers' comp, the unemployment, all of those other things. And then the other 50% is going to go towards profit and overhead. So that's how you need to look. If you need to scan your organization. So if you think, so a couple of things here. If you think that your payroll's a little heavy, or if you're trying to pick someone to bring on, you need to make sure first and foremost that they're going to 3x, they're going to bring to the organization 3x of what you're paying them. And then the other thing, what you can look at if you think if you're overpaying people, is look around the room and say, okay, this person's bringing this amount, this person's bringing this amount, but this person's bringing that amount. And if it doesn't make sense, then you're probably either A, overpaying people, or B, there's too much redundancy going on. You got 3 different people doing the same job, when really it should be taking one person or 2 people doing that job. And that's just, for me, when I look around the room and I scan the room, it's like, okay, those are the just basics, I don't know, that you need to look at.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say there's a lot of leakage, so to speak, due to, being unorganized. It's really easy to say, well, I'll just keep letting my cousin work here because, he needs a job. And like, I don't really have time to fire him. Like, I know he's not really worth a shit, but, hey, like, we got bigger problems. No, dude, you got to take care of that stuff, because if you've got people sucking off the company tit, you have to look at that, because that affects not only the owner, but it affects everybody. It affects your pricing. It affects everything. And so, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, and that's a good topic too, because I've been on this kick too, where I've been trying to practice removing emotion from my decision making. Right. A lot of times I won't make a decision because it may hurt somebody's feelings, or I won't make a decision because I'm afraid because first emotion is my emotion on how I think it's going to make them feel. The second emotion that I'm worried about is how they're going to feel if I make that decision. But you nailed it, Corey, when you said for the greater of the good. Sometimes we have to remove our emotion and what we think their emotion or reaction is going to be from that decision or conversation. Sometimes there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that, as an entrepreneur or a leader or a co-leader within the organization, has to have with people. Like, A, you need to pick up the beat, or B, unfortunately, we've given you 10 chances and strike 10, you're out. Because you're dragging everybody else down. You're keeping it so our overhead expenses are too high. You're holding us back from growth. You've become a bottleneck because you won't let go, because you think it's job security or whatever the case might be. Because that's the thing that happens too within an organization. Once you get large enough, then little departments or individuals become a bottleneck themselves, because they think they can't train anybody because nobody can either do it as good as they can, or they think it's job security, which is very small thinking. Like, no, what if you die today, what good has that done anyone else? And if you train somebody else, now you became an asset, and we can move you to a different position, which should be a higher position of that department, because we just created a department around you because you were the A player at the time. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of moving parts, and you got to pay attention to everything, because unfortunately, Every decision, whether we make it today, is going to affect 6 days from now, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now. And that part of our job as an entrepreneur is to be a visionary and to be able to predict things, right? And you just got to try to continuously stay one step ahead and motivate your team and encourage them. That's a good idea that we get somebody else in here. And sometimes it might be a bad decision that we made, but we got to know that sometimes making a bad decision is better than not making a decision at all.
I would argue not making a decision is still a decision.
Amen to that. Because you decided not to make a decision.
Because you decided not to make a decision. I'm just not going to deal with that today. Right? We've all done it. But yeah, it's, and guess what? Like you said, dude, like we're all going to make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect, even though we think that we should be perfect and that we need to do everything perfectly. It's just not reasonable to think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. And we've all been there. We've all done it. And I talk about this story when I finally cried out for help. And it was probably the best decision I ever made because I was wearing 15 different hats that created 12 full-time jobs about 9 years ago. I finally dropped to my knees. It was either going to make or break me. And, at that point in time, I went on a mission. Like I brought people in, they weren't the right fit, but I didn't quite give up yet until we found the right people and started to build a company that people actually wanted to come work for, right? We started to build a culture people wanted to be a part of. We started to do things, right? It just starts to happen. It's like the more you start working on your leadership, right? That's where the exponential growth starts to come into play with your company, with your team. When you start becoming the mentor, the coach, and you're coaching people, people see these things, right? People attract people. Your team is talking about what a wonderful place it is to come work for. That creates that culture in the community, right? We were talking to Dylan Mullins did his Fearless 44 day 24, and he was talking about community service. And I know I'm kind of all over the place, but it plays into a huge part of company culture is community, right? And I think you should first and foremost you should focus on your community service work that you do. And it's not about notoriety, it's not about getting leads from, it's not about any of those things. It's about taking care of the community that has been so good to us, right? So what that does is that other people see this and they want to be a part of it, and it attracts other people that want to, because we all have a giving and kind heart, and most of us do, I should say. And sorry, somebody just texted me real quick. I got distracted easily, always shiny things.
Sorry.
But
you're talking about community.
Yeah, so community, Dan Barker texted me, "Hey Dan, we're going live right now." But buddy of mine. But community, right? So the community involvement, like, and we started that. I personally started most of these, but we passed the torch on to our team members that want to get involved with it, right? And this is a part of building a legacy, whether you know it or not, right? And people don't need to know that I started it, but when you pass the torch onto your team and they start developing a committee for these charitable events, they took it upon themselves. Now you got teams working together, right? Which is creating a culture, pulling together, creating something that's much bigger than I am at this point in time. But team building skills, right? So they're trying to figure out a problem, like how are we going to feed 800 people this year, right? That's a pretty big feat, right? So that's going to take 80 turkeys. Each turkey feeds about 10 people, all these things that they're figuring out, like calling the city, barricading the street down, calling the guy to make sure he's got his service food safety certification thing, and all these things okay. So that's them doing this and building that culture. Well, now we go out in the street, we close the street down. We got the police commissioner there. We got the governor or the mayor of York City there. And the news people are there. Well, other people are like, damn, dude, what's TC Backer doing over there? What the hell is going on? When it's the staff is bringing their kids, their aunts, their uncles, their relatives are coming down to help out. And it's the next thing you know, you got all these people that are like, dude, like, how can I come work for you? And it plays such a huge important, and this podcast has been one thing. Half the people that are probably watching this thing right now are co-leaders of TC Backer Construction, because it's something that we do, and they know that whatever we're talking here, once this microphone gets turned off and that camera shuts off, my ass is cashing these checks that we're writing right now. Right. That vulnerability, that transparency, that openness, that willingness to delegate. So for the longest time, man, like I was so stubborn and wanted to take on everything myself. And don't get me wrong, I still get in that funk where it's like, get the fuck out of the way, man. I can do it better. You're doing it too slow. Right. Get out of the way. But I catch myself a lot quicker and a lot sooner. Right. Because I want them to help. We can't do what we do today, whether it's the community, whether it's for our industry, whether it's for our distribution, our manufacturing. And we rate ourselves on those things from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the greatest. Where are we at with our community? Where am I at personally? Where am I at with the manufacturing? Where am I at with the industry right now? And that's why we continue to do this podcast, because we want to rate ourselves at least an 8. Are we impacting this? And I don't want to continue to keep saying we're making an impact. We're making an impact. It's like, I'd rather just show you that we're making an impact and allow that check the cash that our ass just wrote. I know I kind of was all over the place on that.
But. That's okay. So a couple of things. Your intention behind this was pure. All right. So let's point that out. The intention on feeding the families was completely pure from your heart, something you wanted to do. The flip side of that coin is the news station shows up, the police department show up, and guess what? They see, as you kind of alluded to, they see what you're doing. You literally get free media for doing something that actually makes you feel better than probably any other day of the year, because you can't put a number on how you feel after you've delivered those turkeys. You can't even explain the feeling unless you've done it. We feed a few families, sure as hell not 800. We drop off like 6 meals at Thanksgiving. And I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. I do it. Unfortunately, I do it because they help the families, but I also do it because I want that feeling, because I can't get it anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And that's why we do it. You're right, because it not only you are getting that feeling, but your entire team or your wife or your kids is getting that feeling, right? And that's where the culture, the fellowship, and the camaraderie come in. Whoever you're doing that with is feeling the same thing that you're feeling, and that makes you want to do more. What more can we do? Right? Like, how else can we help other families? Okay, well, we're a roofing company. We help families all the time, but that kind of gets old. That kind of gets stale a little bit. It's like, let's step this shit up a notch. And it's kind of like, we're at that point now. It's like, okay, we're on the 3rd annual food drive. We're on the 3rd or 4th annual 21 turkey salute. We put a couple roofs on for people and things like that, but it's kind of getting to the point now where it's like, and I'm sure most of the team would agree with us, that it's like, it's time to do something else now. It's like, okay, where else can we have impact? And that was the thing too. When we first started to do charitable events, we were kind of all over the place. We were the town over. We were doing this, we were doing that. Well, we found this church, Pastor Joel, big shout out to Pastor Joel, who does so much for the community. Like, he's got a food pantry there. They do self-help meetings and all kinds, both AA and NA and narcotic, and they have this clothing thing where people can come in and actually pick out clothing for free. You don't even have to buy it. They do like coat drives. They do community block parties. They do so much stuff. Like, when the homeless shelter fills up, he allows people to sleep outside the church there. Right. And I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me if you let him in at night, but we found him and it was like, you know what? We feel like we can make an impact here with him. This guy is doing a lot of good stuff for York City. And we want to help him have an impact on his, people, because they're his people. He looks at it like, this is my town. This is my city. This is where I live. And he's got his family has a legacy. Like, his dad did it before he did it. I think his mom also did it. Now he grabbed a hold of the torch, and is now carrying out their legacy. And half the things that he does, and he's such a humble dude, doesn't take credit for any of it. And he doesn't do that in a way where it's like in an egotistical way. Like, he seriously does not want the credit for any of this stuff. Like, you don't see him on social media like me, and it's probably an ego driven thing, talking about how big my socks are right now or whatever the case might be, right? But like, he I want to be more like him. You know what I mean? Like, this humble giant of a dude that he is, that just has an impact on people. And let's think about this for a minute. We're here to have impact on people. We're here to serve others, right? That's why we are put on earth. I mean, this goes back thousands of years, when villages, right? When where the old saying came from, where it takes an entire village to raise a child. Like, that's what they're talking about. Like, it takes all of us to have an impact on the community, to raise our children, to, from our teachers at high school, or whatever school that they're involved with. It's all of us. We're all supposed to be serving each other in a way. And I'm not trying to get biblical, and I'm not trying to get all spiritual and all this stuff. But if you really think about it and remove yourself from self, it comes back. That's the secret. Like, if anyone ever asked themselves, why is my life so shitty? I'm going to tell you right now why your life is so shitty, because it's all about you. You somehow have made this all about you. The second that you can look any further than your nose and you make it about other people, and it can start at home. It can start at home with your own family. Let them watch whatever they want to watch on TV. Yes, you busted your ass all day. And yes, you can say, yeah, I busted my ass all day, so you can have that TV. That's my chair. That's my remote. At 5:30, that TV's mine. The food better be on the table. No, you signed up for it. This is what you signed up for. You married somebody. You decided to pump out a bunch of kids. Now that your job is to serve them, to make sacrifices. Right. And it goes, then spread that joy and that love out into your community, right? Do something for Thanksgiving. And you know what? It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving, because it seems like around the holidays, everybody all of a sudden is all spiritual and shit. And then they want to start giving. Well, what about spring? What about summer? What about fall? You know what I mean? What about all these other months? Because, no pun intended, that's when the well runs dry. That's when the food pantries run dry, is in the summer months, because they fill up over Thanksgiving. They fill up over Christmas, because all of a sudden everyone's going to church on Sundays for fucking Christmas Eve and New Year's and all this shit. And it's like, they haven't even been to a church all year long. Now they're the spiritual giant that want to give. And it's like, nah, we're missing it. Yes, that's a great day to do that. And yes, that was the day Jesus Christ was born. And yes, just give. Stop being a dick.
Yeah, you're right. And really, what you're really describing here is reciprocity. And reciprocity is 100% a real thing. If you do something nice for someone without the expectation of getting something in return, that's what I'm talking about with reciprocity. If you do it with the intention on getting something in return, you're probably not going to get that, right? Because it's the wrong intention.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, man. You're right. Make sure your intentions are right. Just do it because you want to do it, not because you're looking for recognition, not because you're trying to market or brand or whatever. Make sure your intentions, those things come. Going back to, that's the silver bullet. Give more than you receive, and it comes back tenfold. That is the trick.
So let me hit on the social media aspect of this. So, I'm sure you guys do. I'm sure you go live and whatnot during this process.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there are going to be people that are watching this, and maybe even you may even think this way as well. That, well, I am doing this for the right reason. I don't want to look like the shithead that's doing it just to be on social media. But I would argue, if you don't put it on social media, then people can't see what it's like. They can't see that this is a real thing without seeing somebody like you doing it. Does that make sense? And I think it spreads that way. So I know our voices internally say, oh, you don't have, you're just bragging. You just want everybody to know, but that's not really it. You're doing something good for the community and leading by example. And so I would say that probably helps other people to open their eyes to hopefully move forward and do the same thing for someone or something similar.
Absolutely. Listen, that's what that is about, is to inspire other individuals, other companies, other families to want to either participate or do something themselves to have an impact on the community, their family, other people's families. That's the whole point. If we're posting something like this on social media, because listen, nobody knows, Vic knows, my family knows how hard it is to do what it is that we do. It's not worth it. At the end of the day, the amount of resources that go into do something that we do isn't, it really isn't worth it, but it is worth it to me in here.
Right.
100%. There's no other motivation about it, other than the fact that I want to do this and I want to have an impact on other people. And the beautiful thing is that hopefully it inspires someone else, whether they think I'm a dick or not. It's because they know they're not doing enough. Anyone that would talk shit about what we do, it's that guilty conscience that they have because they know damn well they ain't done a damn thing for anybody else other than themselves unless it benefited them. That's
right.
it. That's it in a nutshell, brother. I
100%.
guarantee it. But hopefully there's enough people out there watching, listening, and paying attention, right? And if you want to know why we're so successful or whatever it is, or why I don't suffer from depression and all this other bullshit that people are suffering from, is because you're a selfish, self-centered piece of shit. And that's where
Yep.
it starts. You broke all these promises that you made to yourself. You broke all these promises you made to your family. You broke all these promises to your coworkers. And that's where the depression and the low self-esteem comes in. Do something for somebody else. You're feeling down, go do something for somebody else. Right? Get off your ass and do something. Take care of yourself first and foremost. And this is where the paradox is in all this. If I can't take care of myself, how am I supposed to take care of anything or anyone else? Right. So it's just like when you're on an airplane, that lady standing up there and she's explaining to you about the life vest and the oxygen mask that falls out from the ceiling there. She tells you to put it on first. So then
Right.
you can help everyone else on the plane. Same concept. If I'm not eating right, if I'm not sleeping right, if I'm not reading my daily meditations and reflections and all those things and making sure that I'm as spiritually fit with my Kevlar on to deflect all the fucking bullshit in the world today, right? So I can suit up, show up, and serve, right?
Right.
Other individuals, other families have an impact, a positive impact today, not a negative impact, but have a positive impact on every single person that I'm in contact with on a daily basis. Now, am I 100% perfect at this? Hell no. Sometimes I get shitty sleep. Sometimes I'll eat a whole fucking pizza pie mile high myself, right? Sometimes I'll get all jacked up on Red Bull, right? Wherever the hell the camera is. You know what I'm saying? I still got a couple vices here and there, but I've been working on it. It's progress rather than perfection, right? But I would like to think at the end of the day, most people know who I am, what I'm about, and what cloth I'm cut from, right? That I would give this t-shirt off my back to any individual, whether I like them or not. Whether I
Right.
like them or not, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't let them sit there and be cold. I couldn't let them be outside in the cold weather. Like I couldn't do that. It's not
That
who I am.
becomes a that sometimes becomes a challenge, though. It can become a challenge because there are people in the world, and hopefully you don't have to deal with this, but we we're in we're in the same organization to a degree, and there are people that will take advantage, and you've got to just be able to decipher when that's happening and when it's not happening.
Mhm.
And it certainly happened to me, but I'm not a victim. It's like when somebody says, well, all your sponsees went out. That's not my problem.
Mhm.
Like, it's not that I did anything wrong. It's a choice. Everybody has a choice to make. And if you make a choice to drink today, then you're going to pay the consequences. If you make a choice to not drink today, you're going to get the rewards. It is what it
Amen.
is. It's the same difference with the pizza or the pie or the cake or the not exercising. You have a choice. We all have a fucking choice.
No doubt. We do. And that's the thing. We do have a choice, a conscious decision that I'm going to drink this Red Bull tonight. whether I am or I'm not, but I do. It's kind of my thing. But I'll be honest with you, I have cut back on it. And I think that's my attitude has reflected me not drinking. I think I'm going through withdrawal right now from caffeine and Red Bull right now. But I mean, it's something I'm working on. I don't drink them every day anymore. I have cut back on them. But and it was a decision I made for myself. I haven't suffered any consequences. I'm getting a little better at that too, right? Because I'm the kind of knucklehead, unless I'm suffering a consequence, I'm not going to stop doing it.
Of course
Right.
not.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, I choose to work on myself and be a better person today. There's always shortcomings and character defects, man. Just scratch the surface, man, and the old tie will veer its ugly head at any given day. Right. But the difference is today is I've noticed it. I identify it. And whenever there's an amends that needs to take place, listen, man, I didn't get put on this earth to feel awkward, to feel out of place, to feel uncomfortable. Right. So I need to put my tail between my legs, go over to that individual because I see the hurt in their eyes today. Right. Because I would hate a person, dude. I would be the best. I would hate you like no one ever hated you before. Like, I love to hate. Like, I'd get some kind of power trip off that shit and hurt people's feelings. But today I'm not about that. And don't get me wrong, I'm very competitive, but I try to do it in the most professional possible way that I can. Right. But because I love competition. Right. I love competition, whether it's sporting or business or whatever. And that's a whole other topic.
So, but who does it hurt if you're sitting there thinking, man, I really fucking hate that guy. Like, every time he walks in the room, it just makes me enraged. I just want to punch him right between the eyes. Do you think that guy's thinking about that? Hell no. You're the only one that's suffering. That's just the truth. Like when somebody cuts you off in traffic, who suffers? You, because you're cussing him out. That guy didn't know he cut you off, or maybe he doesn't care that he cut you off, but he's sure not worried about it. Guarantee that, right?
Yeah. And you want to
It's
know why you
perspective.
probably hate that person? It's because you see something in them that you see in yourself.
That's
And
right.
that's the bottom line. That's usually what the case is. You see something in them that you see in yourself. Or it's envy, which is not a good thing. But this is the deal. You just gave that person control now. Like you said, they're not going home and losing sleep over your ass. First and foremost, you're just not that important. I'm not as important as I think I am. Okay.
Right.
Second thing is he's renting headspace, right? You're renting headspace, that guy, right? And it's cheap. I just had a conversation with somebody about this today. Right. Like, you're giving them that power, that control, because the chances are they probably know that you dislike them because of just your posture, your gestures, the way you're ignoring them or whatever like that. Well, once you start doing that and you open that can of worms, you just gave them control. Right.
Totally.
They have all the power in the world now. Once you get that anger seed or dislike or whatever that you do to yourself, that I've done to myself, it's like at that moment, that point in time, it's like I just gave them all the control in the world. And I don't know about you, I don't like anybody trying to control me, and unfortunately I did it to myself.
Yeah. 100%. And the only way to get out of it is to go and have a conversation with that individual. Hey, I'm not sure if the last time you came in here, if you meant to look at me like you wanted to cut my head off or not, or maybe that was just me, but I'm just curious. If I have done something, let's talk about it. And most likely they're going to say, what the fuck are you talking about? Right? Because we make a lot of shit up in our head. I always say this. You don't have to believe everything you think. Think about that. You don't have to believe everything you think.
I like that. That's true. And that up here is a scary place to be some days.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah,
Sure.
I know. No doubt, brother. No doubt. No, it's such a great, topics that or subjects that we've talked about, because this is the real deal. And like you just talked to,
Well, I'm still alive, I think. I'm not sure what happened to Ty. I think this is absolutely hilarious when this happens. He's probably not going to think it's hilarious, but I think it's hilarious. For whatever reason, this happens to me. I don't know. 50% of the time when I go live, I get something happens to the host, and I get I get the stage. So I'm going to entertain you for a minute until Ty comes back. He probably just had a glitch in his internet. Sometimes the software that he uses, and when I used to go live, I would use the same software and have the same problem, which is why I don't use it anymore. But this has been a really good conversation, and I'll take a quick second to, I guess, bridge the gap. Now I'm definitely the only person in here. So he's probably going to pop back in. Let's see what happens here. But I would like, if you're still watching, please go and review the show, Ty's show, because reviews are hard to get. They're hard to get for a podcast. They're hard to get for, any business. So if you're watching this, share it out to people, not for my sake, but for Ty's sake, because lots of times people don't do that. And, he spent a lot of time. He's on 199 episodes, which, arguably that's well over 200 hours, not to mention the time it takes to put this thing together. So share the show, drop a comment in the show. I don't know if any comments have come in. Thank God he hasn't put it up, because there he is. I just kept it rolling, dude. I just kept it rolling. You back? I think I can hear you. You back?
1 second.
I was just explaining to everybody that, that sometimes happens. Sometimes I get stranded on an island by myself. And so I just entertained the people while you were taking a quick break.
Yeah, thank you. Vic fell asleep, everyone. Sorry about that.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's not the first time.
You're rapping on there pretty. No, it's not. Unfortunately, fortunately, we are at a different location and still getting used to our surroundings right now. But thank you. I saw you yapping. I could still see you on there yapping away. So continue, please. Thank you for filling in for me.
Well, I just filled in the gaps. I said I encourage everybody to review the show and make sure they share it out, because you put a lot of hours into this. I said, you're on almost show number 200, so you've minimally put 200 hours into this, not to mention whatever it is the time you put into editing it and all that stuff. So I think that's really important, and that's what helps the show grow when people review it and they share it. So
for sure, thank you.
100%. So where are we going next? I'm not even sure how much time we've got, but let's rock and roll.
We got all the time that you want. Well, let's talk about, I feel like I've been yapping this whole damn time. So why don't we talk about your journey of starting your podcast and how it has contributed to your own, personal and professional development?
For sure. I started the podcast just to interview entrepreneurs, business owners. I had very little aim when I started the podcast. To be honest, I didn't have much of an aim at all. But what's happened is I've been educated by people like yourself, the other people that I've had on one-on-one, by people that are doing big shit in different industries, particularly the construction industry. And so I get to learn about new stuff. I get to have that one-on-one time with people, and it helps me develop personally, and it gives me insight on what's going on in the industry. And so selfishly, I learn a lot when I have people on. And then the dual benefit of that is they, hopefully they gain business out of it. That's the goal. But yeah, it's been a pretty incredible journey. We've had a lot of growth recently. And I think the reason, if I'm being honest, is because I stopped doing single podcasts by myself, right? People probably got tired of listening to me yammer. And I focused on the other person. And lots of times, for a long time, I didn't do that. It was just ego. And people could see that shit. Like, they could see if it's just ego and you're doing it just to make yourself look better. And, I'm sure, I don't know if everybody falls victim to that, but I certainly did. It's been quite a journey, though. I really enjoy it. Like, if I could do like 4 podcasts a day and not do anything else, I probably would do it. because it's pretty fun, I think. I mean, I don't enjoy editing it, but I also have figured out ways to shorten that editing time down significantly. And I do all my editing, but with AI, and I would love to get into that for a quick second.
Go for it.
You know, AI is a space that, whether you like it or not, is here. And whether you get on board or not, it's going to move without you. And it's moving pretty damn fast. And, you know, for those folks that might be listening that are questioning whether AI is going to be good for your business or not, look, you don't have much time to question it, because regardless, it's coming. We've built a pretty incredible measuring software, and really what that does is it's not necessarily the mechanism of the measurement, but what it does is gives the estimate in record time, less than 30 seconds, from ad on Facebook, let's say, to the inbox to the customer. Now that process goes, they click on a jot form just like any other jot form. It pre-fills the information. Whatever's missing, the customer has to fill it in, check a box. And when they hit send, 30 seconds later, Tiebacker Roofing is going to be in their email box with 3 estimates. Mm-hmm. Now, why is that important? Well, it's 10 times faster than anybody else. It's 10 times cheaper than anybody else. And if you're working a storm, for example, which is where I see this exploding, the first to get to the door is who's going to get that deal, right? People are not picking and choosing when they got a tree coming through the top of their house, right? They're not getting estimates. They're going to take the first person they can get to their house. Well, the only way to get there the fastest is to use what we've got. And so, you know, we're I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but we're in conversations with Hunter and getting into beta with Hunter in roofing.com, which is going to be incredible. And we've got a couple other things that we're dealing with, door knockers in particular. Like if you think about, you know, people that are knocking, it gives them a leg up if they can provide an estimate immediately. And here's the benefit for the contractor, right? Not only the speed to lead, but the other benefit is we train the AI on your pricing. And if you've got 12 different locations, all those locations probably have different pricing, right? If you've got one in California, one in New York, one in Texas, one in Nebraska, all those prices are going to be different. That's the other thing. We're not limited to territories. It's nationwide. So the other people out there are territory dependent. So you have to spend the money to buy territory with, if you want to call competitors. And I haven't talked about this a lot, but it's the most exciting thing. One of the most exciting things that I'm excited about in AI, because we're going to be able to change the roofing industry. We're going to be able to provide a solution that's not there, right? Think about this. How many times have you heard, well, the lead was bad? Well, the lead was bad because you didn't get back to it for 24 hours. The lead was bad because you were on a roof and you didn't get back to them. The lead was bad because they farmed it out to 40 other people, or maybe not 40, but 6 or 7 other people. And you weren't the first one there. With this solution, you will be the first one there, right? Regardless of where you are physically, it's all done automatically. So, and we can tie it to any ad campaign that you're running. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Google or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, it makes no difference. And so I believe this product's going to change the game for a lot of people. That's what I believe. And for the contractor in particular, so let me go back to one thing. When I said we train it on the pricing, we train it on your pricing. So if you're a contractor watching this and you want the pricing to be 10% higher, then we add 10% in. We work for the contractor. We don't work for the customer, right? That's your job to get out there and sell the customer. So we do the pricing ever how you want to do it, whether it's one of those estimates are super low to hook them, whether it's, and then you've got a really high estimate, let's call it good, better, best option. But my guess is that not my guess, the prices are going to be exactly what you tell us they're going to be. Does that make sense?
Totally, totally. Now let's circle back a little bit on our earlier conversation. Now, when this is spitting these prices out, is it like a monthly price, or is it shooting out there, the 15K for your roof, or is it giving them the option for financing?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. So we're going to be shooting out the monthly price. So here's the thing. If you get an estimate, first of all, very few people are doing that in this space to begin with. So if you get an estimate and it says the roof is going to be at let's say cash price, not insurance, the roof's going to be $440 a month, between $440 a month or $240 a month and $440 a month. That's a very different looking estimate than you're going to see anywhere else. So guess what? That customer, out of pure sheer curiosity, is, well, you've already got their information, so you can keep marketing to them because they clicked on the ad. So yeah, dude, it's a sniper way of doing things. I mean, it's going to set you apart from anybody else in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Now, how are they receiving this? Like, is it just
Email.
randomly email? Okay.
Or text, for that matter.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I'm a firm believer in like he who gets the most touch points first wins in a retail market. And to kind of touch on what you said, like if you're the first one at the door, it's like going to the hospital and let's say you have a heart attack. Like you're not asking the doctor his credentials or how much he's going to charge you, right? He's the doctor that showed up in the room while you're having a heart attack and you're hoping that he's going to help and fix you. Right. Same thing with roofing. If you show up at somebody's house and they got a tree stuck to their roof, right? Like they're not going to question like, well, how much are you going to charge me to at least throw a tarp on my roof? Like they're in panic mode. They're like, yes, thank you. You're the knight in shining armor at this point in time. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially in a storm market. If you're the first one at the door or got the quote there, right? Whether it's virtually or physically, the chances are, and especially if you're following up, right? And to touch a little more about that is like if you think it's a bad lead, it's like, well, get off the roof and answer the phone. Right. Because I hear so many people, homeowners talk about, well, they didn't answer the phone, right? Or they did answer the phone, but nobody showed up, or he did show up, but he never gave me the quote back. Well, this sounds like that alleviates all of those pain points for homeowners because they're getting quotes. Now, with that AI, and I might be asking you too many questions. So like, would we be able to run like a campaign? Let's just say there's a neighborhood that we wanted to target. Does it have the capabilities of giving the correct information so we can just kind of launch a campaign with it?
Correct information. Define what you mean.
Like
can we
phone
target
numbers,
a neighborhood?
emails?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And follow up. Yeah. So there's several processes that we could use AI for the follow up, and we've already built some of that stuff out. So let's just pretend that you missed the call, right? You're on the roof and you missed the call. Mm-hmm. There's a multitude of ways that we could reroute that phone. We could reroute that call, whether it be it immediately shoots out a text message if you missed the call. Now you have to be selective about that, and you would want to do that on just the number that's listed on your website, right? Or whatever. In other words, you wouldn't want all the missed calls that you get to receive that text message, because if it's a personal phone, which you shouldn't be using for this anyway, yeah, there's a bunch of different ways we can do that, and follow up through text, through email, through voice messaging, voicemail drops. Do you know what I mean by voicemail drops?
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's incredible. Wait, but it gets better. So here's where it's really going. I got into this space because I saw a problem with like Service Titan, for example, House Call Pro. They all record the phone calls, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is there's gold inside of those phone calls. CSR answers the phone, customer calls. They say one thing, CSR says another. Maybe the CSR is, maybe her boyfriend just dumped her. Who knows, right? She's off that day and she's having a really shitty day. And so she's burning calls. We built an MVP, which is minimal viable product, which is the bare bones of the AI, right? So it's not fully built out, but the bare bones, the back end, and I'm not a software guy, so the back end of the shit's built out. The idea was we would be able to tell you, the owner, every time that phone they hung up, it would show you how that call was across the board with emoji, right? Smiley face, upside down face, smile, sad face, and then you would know where that call fell off, or you would know that it was a great call all the way through. So this is where I'm going with that. Well, we got the MVP built. I'm a sales guy, so like that kind of fell by the wayside. But I knew voice, this was going to voice. And what I mean by voice is AI voice. So there's a company out there called Air AI. And I'm just going to be completely transparent with you. And I don't have any beef with Air AI. So this is not me just throwing them under the bus, but they're trying to appeal to every industry. And you can't appeal to every industry and expect to be really good at it. And so there's a lot of people out there that are talking shit about how they've got this conversational AI. Well, I've been dealing with this shit for 8 or 9 months now. So I can tell you right now, there is not anybody out there that has perfected this. I'm just going to tell you that right now, because I'm having conversations with the people that are building it. So I know it's not out there. And so I talked with a guy today, and I won't mention his name. He's focusing on 2 industries in the home services space. And I won't list those because I don't even know if I was really supposed. I guess I could talk about that anyway. So when I say conversational AI, it means that you and I talking just like we are on this call, except for it'd be on a phone call. And the other person would be a trained artificial intelligence robot that sounds just like you. And when I say just like you, it's pretty damn amazing. And so they haven't perfected the inbound and the outbound yet, but this is the next play for the software that we've already built. Is conversationally, we will be able to deploy 1,000 phone calls at once. That robot have a conversation with the customer. Now, keep in mind, let's talk about the storm person, the trees through my roof. I don't give a shit if you're a robot. And plus, I can't really tell anyway because it's trained so good. And it walks you all the way through to the appointment on the phone. It integrates with your calendar and it says, hey, Ty, we have Thursday at 4 o'clock available. We have Monday at 2 o'clock available. Neither one of those times work, Ty. Neither one of those times work. No problem. And through AI, it picks 2 other dates. Right. So it books the call right there. And then it shows up on your calendar. Right. So that's where this thing is going. And pretty quickly. Like, I'm going to say it's already happening with after-hour calls for HVAC and plumbing companies. So what I mean by that, you guys don't get a lot of after-hours calls, right? And if you did, it can wait till tomorrow, most likely. But if you got a busted pipe or you got a toilet that's exploded in your house and it's flooding your house, you need somebody to come out and fix it. Well, I don't know how much you know about after-hour call services, but most of them suck. They just do. They don't know shit. They take a phone number. There's hold times. It's just not a good system. So what this company in particular is doing is they're eliminating that system because guess what? The AI doesn't sleep. It doesn't have PMS. It doesn't call out sick. It doesn't take vacations. It's none of that shit. It's going to answer the phone every single time. And I know that was a mouthful, but like I get super jacked about this because, dude, it's the future. And so have you heard any of the conversational AIs?
I have a little bit, not a whole lot, but I have, and I've heard, the same what you're hearing, what you're telling me right now. I've heard other people, and I'll be honest with you, you may have even told me about most of what I know right now, in earlier conversations we've had. But yeah, it definitely, you either need to get in on this now, like you need to accept it, like you said earlier. AI is coming, use it to its advantage. Don't fight it. And honestly, it could help your systems and your processes, especially when somebody's like you were talking, the calling out or 24-hour service. We do advertise this 24/7 because you never know when a storm's going to hit. But to talk a little bit about the recording of the conversation, right? You're right. There is gold in that conversation. And what we've recently started to do is implement where our project consultant gets a copy of it so he can listen to it, because you don't know exactly. Yes, they're the person answering the phone is taking notes, jotting things down, but did they really did the first and foremost, did the homeowner understand what's wrong with their home? Right. Secondly, was it articulated in a way for that individual who took the call to leave the note for the sales consultant or whoever, so they're prepared enough to go out and talk about what the homeowner needs. So what we started to do is we share that with our sales rep to listen to the conversation, because there's just so much information there to hear the emphasis, to listen to the pain point, to, some people think fascia is flashing and flashing is fascia, or whatever the case might be, right? And they're talking about this, and who knows how well the person answering the phone is trained, or if they even came from our industry or not, and they're jotting down the notes correct. But that phone call being recorded is golden. Not just that, but for training purposes for those that are answering the phone, right? Have you ever listened to yourself on a phone conversation with somebody and it's like, oh my God, why didn't I ask him this? Oh my God, I sounded like shit, or my enthusiasm wasn't there, or whatever the case might be. But listening to yourself, or allowing that person that's answering the phone listen to themselves while they're speaking to homeowners is invaluable.
It's also painful. And a lot of people don't want to do it because, look, most everybody they don't like the sound of their own voice. They sure as hell don't want to watch themselves on video. Look, it used to be the most painful thing I had to do is listen to myself after I did a podcast, but I would force myself to listen because I make mistakes. I used to talk over people. I've said stupid shit before. And I would have never known that because I'm in the moment if I didn't go back and listen to it. And it makes you feel like a total idiot. But guess what? You won't make that mistake again, hopefully. Right? But the only way you're going to know is if you go back and re-listen. And, I would also say that whenever, like all my Zoom calls, I'll give everybody a little tip here. If you do a lot of Zoom calls, I use a software called Fireflies AI. Dude, complete game changer because it records the video, just you and me here. It gives the transcript exactly the way it was said. It summarizes the transcript. If you've asked any questions, it gives me a list of all the questions you asked. It gives me a list of all the questions I asked. If there's action, if there are action, what am I trying to? If there are action items, I guess is the best way I can say it. It will tell me in a list what those things are. And all that shit gets emailed to me and put on a Google Doc. So it's unfreaking real. Like, if you go back and listen to it.
Okay. And it's called what? Fireflies.ai.
There's several out there, but Fireflies is my favorite.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good. I might have to look into that tomorrow. For sure. Yeah. No, I'm going to do that because I do a lot of Zooms, Google Meets, Teams, all that stuff. So is it compatible with all of them?
Yeah. I don't know about with StreamYard, but for sure Google. Here's the other thing. Let's pretend that you signed up for a webinar, right? And it's an important webinar. Your kid falls and cuts her knee wide open, and you can't make it on the webinar. You're not hosting it. You're just showing up to listen. The AI will go in your place and record the webinar and send it to you without you ever logging in.
Wow.
That's nuts.
I love that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I might need that in my life. Well, you know what I'm thinking about? I get coaching calls, right? I give coaching calls and I receive coaching calls. So I could see how that would work be very useful for both cases where I could record the conversation that I'm having with my coach or the individuals that I'm coaching. I could go back and listen to myself to make sure that I articulated the message correctly, that they actually understood it, plus listen to their responses. Because what I do is I take notes, and that way either case I go back and try to pick up where I left off on both cases. So man, I like that. I like that a lot. So I'll have
Well,
to
think
look
about how
into that.
much. Look, think about how much more time you're going to have with that individual if you don't have to stop and write down whatever it is they said or whatever it is they said. Because this conversation just like you and I are having, except it's all being recorded and it's all being summarized and it's all being put into place, and I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I need that in my
It's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's really cool. There's several out there. In fact, Fathom is another one. I don't like Fathom as good, but Fathom's free.
Mhm.
Like it costs you $0 to use that software every single month.
What's
And
Fathom
Fireflies is
do?
not. Same thing.
Same
It does
thing?
something
Okay.
basically the same thing. I like Fireflies because it breaks it down into like hell, dude. It'll even tell you the sentiment analysis of the call. In other words, it'll tell you words that made me excited or when you got excited. Probably didn't record on this, but I can send you the one that from our conversation previously when we recorded my show, because I have all that stuff and it gives me the ability to send it to you and me. I have to click a button to send it to you, but yeah, 100%. Now you got to be careful with that because sometimes you might be waiting on the person. You're like, fuck, dude, this motherfucker, I don't understand why he's late every time. And you make sure if you send a call to him, he'll hear all that.
Whoops.
Right.
That would be me. That would be me.
Right.
Whoops.
So I don't usually send out the copy, to be honest with you. I don't ever send it out unless somebody requests it. And I know I didn't say anything stupid.
That's cool. Unless it's a good friend of yours. Good friend of yours.
Right.
Yeah, right on, right on. Man, such a great
really
conversation that we've had, both podcasts, yours and mine. We've had phenomenal conversations. I can't wait to watch both of ours on the replay. But we're at an hour and 22 minutes into this. And I started to ask this question on all of the podcasts that we've been doing lately to kind of top it off. And so I'm going to go ahead and shoot it at you here so we can get this thing wrapped up. But before I forget, though, Corey Berry, Successful Life Podcast. Okay, so anyone love, subscribe to Corey's podcast, the Successful Life Podcast, which is ranked top 2% in the country, I guess, or podcast all over the freaking world. That's amazing. I need to hang out with you more often and figure out how the hell you did that. But before we get off here, man, and I just like to ask this question. It's like, how do you stay informed about the latest trends in leadership, business growth, personal, professional development? And are there any specific resources you would recommend to our podcast listeners?
So I listen to a lot of books. It sounds really weird because I sucked in school. I mean, I really sucked in school. I hated school. But now I listen to books 90% of the time. Maybe 10% of the time I listen to music. And so one of my recent books, and I do have to look up so I tell you the exact right name, is called The 1 Minute Millionaire. And the reason I suggest I have a ton of them. So I'm going to give you a couple if that's okay. The 1 Minute Millionaire, check it out because what it does is it's the mindset, right? It's if you think that you're not worth a tip, you're not worth that tip. And so it gives you really actionable items and really explains and lays why the thought process needs to be different, right? Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay. My AirPods went nuts here. The other one, so a good sales book would be Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. I mean,
Mhm.
a phenomenal negotiating book. Like, it's so
Okay.
good because we always ask the question for a yes, right? Well, do you want to move forward on the roof today? That's a yes question. People hate to answer the word yes because that's what
Mhm.
everybody expects. Would you be against if I can explain everything today and everything fits your price point, would you be against moving forward today on the roof? Well, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't be against. Or maybe they do say yes, but typically, depending on the situation, um, asking that no-oriented question produces
Mhm.
the result that you want.
Love that. And what's funny is I've had
I
that
knew my
book in my
sound was gonna come back.
library.
Damn it!
I haven't read it yet, but it's been in my library for about 3 or 4 years.
All right. Did you hear? You did it? You were able to hear all that, right?
Oh yeah, all of it.
All right,
Yeah.
good. Because my AirPods went nuts, picked up on my phone. So sorry about that. Go
Oh,
ahead.
that's okay. Yep. Nope. I heard that. But I've had that same book, Never Split the Difference, in my library for like 3 years. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm
You're
gonna.
kidding me.
I'm gonna have to.
Oh, it's
No.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
he's
cool.
the
Good stuff.
yeah, it's good, dude. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also podcast. I listen to I listen to people that are talking about real shit. I don't bury myself in any kind of news. I don't. I try not to distract myself with stuff that's not going to move me forward every day. And I think that's important. What you put in your mind is kind of how the outlook of your life is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, if you listen to Megadeth every day going to work, you're probably going to be pissed off by the time you get there, right? I mean, it's just the truth.
It is. It is. No, what you consume is huge. I mean, and that's you got to feed your brain, and whatever you're feeding your mind is going to be a reflection towards your attitude and your actions and things like that. I'm a firm believer in feeding your mind positive things. Vic and I talked about that today, is like just trying to stay away from like the national media groups, and if anything, like listen to, like, we have a choice, we have a decision on what we consume today, right? And that micro media is what I would prefer to listen to, and that's usually podcast and things like that. And I have several that I kind of rotate through depending upon, like, I got motivational stuff, I got leadership stuff, spiritual stuff that I listen to consistently on a daily basis. And I don't want to say that I cut all music out, but if I have 15, 20, 30 minute drive, or the 12 minutes on the way to work every morning, dude, I'm listening to Craig Rochelle, I'm listening to John Maxwell, I'm listening to a book, whatever I can consume in those minutes, right? Because that usually sets my tone or gives me a topic to talk about at the next meeting that we have, or whatever the case might be, because it's good stuff. Like, I just want that stuff in my life today. And I want to consume good stuff so then I can relay that message to somebody else, or it helps me work on me, in an area. And it's just so funny when you have your ears open and the things that you listen to, and this is the thing too about books, man. Like, I don't just listen to them or read them once. I read them multiple times, and this. It's like the more times I read, it's like something else sticks out to me, or something else will pertain. The same thing will pertain in the context of it, will mean something to me totally different based upon my mindset or where I am at in my journey today. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not too impressed with like how many books you've read. It's what's impressive is how many times you read those same books, right? Like, because it's basic text. A lot of it is it's made for studying, it's made for self-improvement, whether it's financial, whether it's sales, whether it's leadership, whether it's mentoring, coaching, whatever the case is, and whatever you want to be. Because I was a horrible student too, right? I've done more studying over the past 10 years of my life, and most of it had to do with me, like studying myself, figuring out who the hell I am, what are these feelings I'm feeling. Like, I didn't know what anxiety was, I didn't know what fear was, I didn't know all of these things, depression, I didn't know what any of it was, because I drank to drown all of these emotions. Right. So I never allowed myself to be happy. I never allowed myself to be angry. I never allowed myself to feel anxious or, whatever. And then I put the drink down, and then all of a sudden I'm experiencing all of these things, and I didn't know what to do with my time. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to act. I didn't even know who the hell I was. So I went on a journey, a self-reflective journey, and started to catch on to some things. I was like, you know what? I really like this, whatever the case might be, right? Business. I'm like a business junkie, right? Like, so I love business. I love sales. I love mentoring. I love leadership, legacy. You know what I mean? All of these things. So that's what I'm going to consume myself with. Like, I'm a student of leadership, right? Like, I study leadership stuff. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better human being. I want to lead people. I want to serve people. So that's what I listen to.
Starts with you. As the leader, it starts with you. And if your organization is messed up and things are not going great, you got to look at what you're not doing or what you're doing that could be counterproductive, because it starts with you.
Mhm. Absolutely. All of it. Yep. It's the old saying, if I'm pointing the finger at you, I got three more pointing back at me.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
Good.
Very true.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Corey. Well, man, let's stay in touch. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out for an hour and 30 minutes and 57 seconds. We appreciate you guys. This was such a banger. I looked forward to it all day, man. Actually, all week, man. I've been super excited. Don't forget to tune in. Next week will be our 200th episode. I think we're going to have a pizza party with a live studio audience next week. We'll be at the warehouse. So we're gonna have a little party down there. We got two of our OG guests. I got David Bruno and I got Chris Markey, who have been on the show probably more than anyone else. But I love hanging out with those guys, both entrepreneurs, or they've helped entrepreneurs through their course of their careers. But like, love, subscribe to us on YouTube. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be on Google Play, Apple iTunes, and Spotify. We haven't done that yet. We've been slacking for the past 4 years, but hopefully by the end of the week, we're on all those stuff. And then by all means, check out Corey Berry, Successful Life Podcast, ranked top 2% in the world. So I'm going to hang out with you. I'm going to ride on your coattails, and then maybe I can become the 5%. Yeah. So anyhow, thank you, Corey, once again. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. See you next week for episode 200.
Thank you, brother.